I finally confronted my manipulative step-niece after she falsely accused my husband of exposing himself. Now the entire family is in chaos, her lies have been exposed, and her father is desperately begging me to forgive her before the damage becomes irreversible. I'm a 30-year-old woman, and my husband is 35. My older sister, also 35, has a 14-year-old son named Kevin, and her husband, Joe, is 40, with a 15-year-old daughter named Kelly. My sister's family was a blended one, including her biological son, her husband, and his daughter. I described their dynamic as a continuous effort, but we had all embraced and welcomed Joe and Kelly into our lives. A few weeks prior, my husband and I hosted a small gathering at our home to celebrate my birthday and for family members to spend time with our 6-month-old son. Those present were my sister and her family, along with our parents, making it a very intimate and relaxed occasion. Everything proceeded smoothly, with nothing unusual occurring. However, several days after the event, my nephew Kevin visited our house and requested to speak with me about something troubling. For context, Kevin and Kelly attend the same school and share some mutual acquaintances. My nephew informed me that Kelly had been telling her friends that during the gathering, she had seen my husband's private parts. She claimed she was in the bathroom, and my husband entered without knocking, with his private parts exposed, which is how she supposedly saw them. This is utterly preposterous, as my husband never behaves this way, even when we are alone at home. And honestly, who would act like that with guests present? Consequently, I asked everyone who had been there that day to meet at my parents' house, and I confronted Kelly. She immediately began to cry and admitted she had fabricated the story for her friends. According to her, all her female friends had already experienced some form of intimacy, while she had not, so she invented this narrative to appear more sophisticated among her peers. I was furious. I called her a repulsive individual, a complete psychopath, and told her she had jeopardized my son's father's life merely to enhance her trivial social standing. I informed the rest of my family that, moving forward, I would never allow my family to be near Kelly again. The repercussions for this girl were swift. My nephew disclosed the truth to everyone at school. My sister and Joe visited the school and informed the principal about the incident, ensuring that if any teacher heard the baseless claims, they would know it was fabricated and would not take action. My parents severed ties with her and will no longer host her in their home. And my sister refused to have Kelly reside with them, resulting in her permanent relocation to her mother's residence. Before you criticize my sister for this decision, please remember that she has a biological son who requires protection. If Kelly could so easily invent and spread such falsehoods about my husband, who could guarantee she wouldn't lie about her stepbrother as well? Now Joe is clearly distressed and conflicted by everything that transpired. He repeatedly tells me that Kelly is depressed and wishes to apologize to my family, but I consistently refuse. I explained to him that her apology is unnecessary, and she shouldn't waste her time, as I will never forget what happened or move past it. Joe continues to implore me to forgive her, citing her youth and foolishness, hoping that if my sister sees my forgiveness, she might eventually accept Kelly back. I told Joe that a foolish teenager possesses the power to destroy a man's life and reputation. Therefore, I am unwilling to take that risk. Furthermore, I fully support my sister and wish to protect my nephew as well. Before Kelly moved to her mother's, Kevin stayed with my husband and me for a few days. So I have no regrets about my decision. I stand by everything I said, but I do feel for Joe. Regardless of how troubled his daughter is, he is a genuinely good man, respectful, and he truly values family and integrity. Update 1. Before delving into the update, I want to clarify 3 key points that frequently arise. We are all certain that Kelly lied. There is no ambiguity or doubt whatsoever. Some of you possess minds as distorted as Kelly's, so I can comprehend why you might side with her. However, please try to cease being so offensive, even for a brief moment. I understand that some of you speak from personal experiences, but for goodness sake, not all troubled teenagers were victims of abuse, and most certainly my husband did not abuse her. For those who require explicit explanations to comprehend, stop sending me direct messages claiming my husband is a predator, asserting that I will regret it when the truth emerges, insulting me for defending my husband, and accusing me of protecting predators. I will continue to disregard your messages. I will not stoop to your level, nor will I entertain your delusions. At this moment, it appears the only predators are yourselves, as otherwise, you wouldn't be such malicious individuals wishing ill upon people you don't even know. You do not offend me by claiming this is fake. If you genuinely believe the story is fabricated and I invented it, why would you waste time commenting? You are free to move on and simply ignore me. I am not willing to forgive Kelly. I am not willing to allow her to apologize. I am not willing to ever have her near my immediate family, meaning my husband and my son. My husband is not willing to do any of these things either. This is a mutual decision, and we will never have anything to do with this girl. Stop blaming me for the actions of the rest of my family. I do not control my parents, my sister, Kelly's father, or my nephew. If they chose to cut contact with her, it was their own decision. We simply communicated our boundaries, but they are free to act as they see fit. Now for the update. As I mentioned, I spoke with my sister and some developments are expected this week. Firstly, Kevin will be coming to our place tomorrow and will spend the entire week with us, allowing my sister and her husband time to resolve matters. They intend to visit Kelly at her mother's home, sit down with her, and explain the path forward. My sister asked Kevin if he wanted her to divorce, or if he felt unsafe living with her husband. My nephew told her he does not wish to jeopardize her marriage. He does not harbor hatred for Joe, even if he expressed it a couple of times. He does not feel unsafe with him, but he never wants to be near Kelly again. My sister and Joe began working with a therapist to see if they could salvage their marriage, and it has genuinely helped them. So, for those hoping for a divorce, it will not happen. The therapist explained to Joe that he can still maintain a relationship with his daughter, while preserving his other family. The only requirement is his willingness to put in the effort. She also stated that divorcing and sacrificing his own life and happiness is not a solution, as where would it end? He divorces my sister and in a few years acquires a new wife, and if Kelly causes trouble again for that new family, will he once again abandon everything and start over? He needs to view himself and Kelly as distinct individuals with their own life trajectories. They do not need to be inextricably linked to have a parent-child relationship, and he also needs to demonstrate to his children that marriages are not trivial. You do not give up at the first sign of difficulty. So they decided to work on their marriage together. They will inform Kelly of the new arrangements, meaning Joe will continue to see and support her, but she will reside full-time with her mother. Her mother is in agreement with this, having been part of these discussions. Some online commentators suggested that in the future, Kevin could stay at my place if they wished to have Kelly over, and I proposed this to my sister. I told her that our home will always be open for Kevin, so we can arrange that if Kevin also desires it. I don't believe he will decline as he enjoys spending time with us and his baby cousin, but we need to assess how he will feel about Kelly being in his house. Currently, Kevin is also undergoing therapy because he has been experiencing nightmares and violent outbursts when he hears about Kelly, so this will not be suggested to him anytime soon. The last time he heard about her, he suffered a panic attack, began crying, and shouted that he despises her and wished we had never met her. I am confident that with therapy, he will return to his cheerful self, but it will be a gradual process. He does not need to be rushed right now. We are all prioritizing his well-being and mental health at this moment, and the summer break will be ideal for him. Kelly will also be transferred to a different school during the summer. This is for both her and Kevin, as they will not need to see each other at school, and she will avoid bullying. Her friends, to whom she recounted the stories, went home and shared the drama with their parents. Consequently, Kelly is now forbidden from visiting these children's homes, as their parents do not wish to take any risks. I would like to say I am surprised, but honestly I am not. No sensible adult would welcome someone like her into their home, and risk being falsely accused. I am also somewhat relieved that the adults who were close to her in some capacity are aware of what is happening, enabling them to protect themselves and avoid facing what we endured. So that's pretty much it for now. I anticipate providing further updates if anything noteworthy occurs. I am looking forward to having my nephew here for the week. I will finally have a gaming partner, as my somewhat older husband isn't particularly enthusiastic about games. So, clearly not as entertaining as Kevin. Hello friends, here is the most astonishing and unforeseen development I ever thought I'd be writing about. But the past 3 weeks have completely upended everything. So here it goes. Ever since Kevin came to stay, our apartment has essentially transformed into a gaming hub, with enough pizza boxes and energy drink cans to rival a college dormitory. He has been gradually decompressing. There have been many late-night gaming sessions, long walks to the park, pushing the stroller with my little one, and even a few heartfelt conversations with my husband. He appears lighter, more like himself, and I must admit being the cool aunt is doing wonders for my self-esteem. He even allowed me to defeat him at Mario Kart once, though I could sense he still had unresolved issues simmering beneath the surface. It began last Friday when Kevin unexpectedly inquired if I could help him contact his former school counselor. Initially, I assumed he was simply anxious about changing schools or his ongoing therapy sessions, which have been slowly but surely effective. But then he revealed something. Apparently, a few days prior, one of the kids from school, Dennis, messaged him saying that Kelly was in some kind of difficulty at her mother's new apartment complex. This was unrelated to our family, but involved an older teenager in the building, a boy named Liam, who had convinced a few girls he was some kind of social media influencer. Yes, truly. Apparently, this tactic works these days, and he persuaded them to gather in his apartment. It seems Kelly, still desperate for companionship and attention, went along. In brief, Kelly claimed this Liam coerced her into performing pranks for his followers. These were foolish acts, but one truly crossed the line when she was dared to harass a neighbor's dog, filmed, humiliated, and the videos were on his private story for a while. She was mortified and, according to Dennis, finally confessed to her mother, who decided to contact the building manager and the boy's parents. I only know this because, oddly enough, Kelly's mother contacted my sister for advice, and my sister, quietly exhausted, relayed everything to me. Their approach involved minimal drama, no police involvement, but an immediate severance of ties with Liam, and Kelly also began therapy there. Honestly, it's evident the girl requires significant help, and I will admit my initial reaction was not exactly compassionate. But after everything, can you blame me? However, Kelly's misstep had a ripple effect. Parents from our old school initiated a group chat and began circulating rumors, as parents tend to do. Sigh. Most of them were wildly inaccurate, and a few bordered on extreme paranoia. Here's where things became absurd. An anonymous concerned parent emailed both Kevin's counselor and the local PDA, alleging ongoing unsafe behaviors in multiple families, including ours, based on completely distorted versions of the Kelly incident, merged with Liam's prank videos, and even confusing which adult did what. I discovered this when the school counselor called me personally. For the record, she knows the truth, trusts Kevin, and suppressed all internal school rumors. But the instigating parent refused to drop the matter. Suddenly, my poor husband, an accountant whose most daring hobby is fantasy football, became the subject of concerned playground gossip once again. Here's where some internet wisdom, courtesy of all of you, proved invaluable. Instead of another family shouting match, we preempted the situation. I called Dennis's mother, whom I had met a few times through carpooling with Kevin. I calmly and concisely explained the truth, with limited personal details, and gently asked for her assistance in quelling the rumors. I then drafted a factual, unemotional letter to the PTA with my sister's input, reiterating that Kelly and her mother had moved, the children no longer interacted, and that anyone with genuine concerns should speak directly to the school. Since then, the rumor mongers have retreated. It helped that the principal began referring to it as the TikTok telephone game, and advised people to find a hobby. But the most unexpected development involved Joe. I must commend that man. He handled all of this with a humility I didn't realize he possessed. He requested to meet with me, just me, at a coffee shop in a neighboring town, neutral territory I suppose. He apologized again for everything and then admitted something surprising. After witnessing Kelly's experience with this new influencer debacle, and how the parental backlash escalated, he realized how quickly a vulnerable, insecure teenager can spiral when there's no fundamental support remaining. He wasn't condoning Kelly's lie about my husband, and he made that clear, but he was pleading for a small measure of empathy for her. Not forgiveness, not reintegration into our family, but just a little compassion in words, not actions. He then slid 2 letters across the table, one from Kelly, one from himself. I told him I wouldn't promise to read them, but he simply said, "That's okay. You decide." That night I did. Kelly's letter was awkward, rambling, with many crossed-out lines and not filled with charming admissions. She wrote about feeling angry, isolated, not comprehending consequences, desperately wanting to belong somewhere, and feeling like our family didn't want her there, which was fair, as we all viewed her as Joe's additional child. She didn't blame me, but she attempted to take responsibility, apologized to Kevin by name, and asked that I please remember her as more than just that mistake. She hoped she could mature into a better person. Joe's letter was concise, but he conveyed that he had decided the best course of action for Kelly was not to force her back into our circle or to continue begging for our forgiveness, but to give her time, space, and therapy. "I know I can be her dad, help her grow, and not expect you or my wife or Kevin to do any more than you're already doing," he wrote. He only asked that I tell Kevin Joe loved him like a son, not a step anything, and that our door was always open for Kevin regardless of what happened with Kelly. Perhaps I'm becoming more lenient. Or perhaps being around Kevin and my perfectly adorable baby makes a person more compassionate. But I've begun to perceive the possibility of repair. Not redecorating the house and welcoming Kelly for Christmas, but something smaller like a truce. And as for Kevin, he's making progress. One long walk, one frustrated gaming session, one day at a time. Things remain imperfect. but a strange sense of optimism has emerged. A feeling that shunning and yelling isn't the legacy I want to perpetually overshadow our family. So where do things stand? No, I haven't invited Kelly over, nor has my sister. No, she's unlikely to attend any birthday parties. But yes, Joe maintains a relationship with both children and with my sister because they choose to communicate rather than completely cut each other off. Yes, my parents are still firmly on the cut her off team, but I sense some softening there now that the initial panic has subsided. And as for me, I uphold boundaries, but I'm keeping my heart a little less hardened for Kevin and for myself. Update 2. Setting the scene, Kevin concluded his week with us, and honestly, it was one of the most positive periods we've experienced. He began to open up more, not just with gaming banter but also with some of the more difficult messy topics. He told me he's been having recurring dreams about the entire Kelly incident, but with a peculiar alteration. The faces change. Sometimes it's him being falsely accused, other times it's my husband. Awkward family symbolism, anyone? That's certainly material for therapy, but he's learning to discuss it, which I believe is significant. My husband, for his part, has unexpectedly become Kevin's confidant. They started taking nightly walks together after dinner, discussing everything from sports to the challenges men face in expressing their emotions. At one point, Kevin directly apologized to my husband for everything, even though no one in the family holds him responsible for anything. It affected my husband deeply. I caught him discreetly wiping his eyes in the kitchen afterward, pretending he was merely chopping onions, even though he wasn't even preparing dinner. It's been like having a second teenage son for us, and honestly, it's been healing in a way none of us anticipated. But of course, neither side of the extended family can leave anything undisturbed. The first major twist. Kevin's school hosted the annual Family Careers Day. Ironic, isn't it? And some parents who still believe the rumors vetoed both my husband's and Kevin's involvement, despite the principal's attempts to intervene. Kevin was distraught, and my husband was furious, but determined not to show it. We ended up hosting our own career day at home, video calling a couple of my tech-savvy friends, and even managed to surprise Kevin with a robot demonstration from my husband's old college roommate, now a mechanical engineer in Germany. It cheered Kevin up again. But still, the wound from the school incident lingers. Meanwhile, at Kelly's mother's residence, things were not progressing well. After the Liam incident escalated, thanks to social media giving every 17-year-old the illusion of celebrity, Kelly's new therapist observed something that hadn't emerged before. Kelly was engaging in self-harm. Nothing life-threatening, but she was using safety pins to scratch phrases onto her arm. Liar. Stupid. Don't fit. Kelly's mother immediately contacted Joe, which triggered Family Summit number 22. My sister and Joe agreed to meet Kelly with her therapist present at a neutral location, a small community center room. Here's where things became surreal. Kelly's therapist suggested, with Kelly's consent, that my sister, Joe, and surprisingly Kevin all write letters to Kelly, expressing anything they wished to say without being in the same room as her. My sister's letter was concise and firm. She couldn't trust Kelly but harbored no ill will. She hoped Kelly would seek help. Joe's was more emotional, telling her he would always be her father and would never cease hoping she improved. He emphasized that her actions have consequences, but she is not defined solely by her worst mistake. Kevin's was heartbreaking and courageous. He stated he never wanted to see her again, but he hoped she would stop hating herself and begin considering how she could improve for her own sake, and for the sake of those who might try to care about her. The therapist read the letters aloud and Kelly reportedly sobbed throughout, but the difference this time was she didn't storm out, scream, or play the victim. She apparently asked for the first time if she could try again when she was older. If she worked hard, changed, and proved she was safe, my sister told her. Perhaps, but this must originate from you, not just words. It wasn't a reconciliation, no embraces, no accepted apologies, but it was, I suppose, a small opening. Now for the bombshell I truly did not foresee. Kelly's biological mother reached out to my parents. That's right. My parents, who had all but removed Kelly from the family group chat and blocked her number. Apparently, Kelly's mother was concerned that completely isolating Kelly from all extended family was simply solidifying a monster label so deeply that she would never overcome it. She wanted to know if my parents would agree to send her a birthday card. No visits, no calls, just a card. My parents, after days of stern deliberation, texted me to ask for my opinion. Me? As if I'm the arbiter of family policy now. I'll be honest, the thought of my parents softening even slightly initially made me uneasy, but then I recalled something Joe said. There's no magical action that instantly restores safety, but perhaps there's a path. So, I told my parents that if they wished to send a card, it wouldn't erase what happened, and I wouldn't bring my husband or child around Kelly, but it also wouldn't harm us to acknowledge she's still alive and still technically family. And now the biggest surprise of all. Amidst all this turmoil, Kevin received a message from an old friend, one who had distanced himself when all the drama was fresh. The friend apologized for becoming distant, explained their parents had essentially forbidden them from speaking to Kevin, and wished to reconnect. Kevin was incredibly anxious about it, but after hours of deliberation and far too many cookies, he decided yes. They went skateboarding, and Kevin returned home smiling with that carefree preteen joy I genuinely believed we had lost. He later told me he appreciates knowing that at least some people can discern through malicious gossip if they wait long enough. What did I learn this time? The intricate system of family fallout is surprisingly resilient. Shunning isn't a permanent solution. It entrenches the wounds. Yes, but it also provides individuals with the space to genuinely desire change. Kevin may never forgive Kelly, but he forgave an old friend. My parents may never host Christmas with her, but a card is a beginning. Even if Kelly never sits at our table again, her existence isn't forbidden from mention. The rules are less rigid, perhaps a little more mature. Kevin is staying with us for most of the summer, his own choice this time. My sister and Joe are back to weekly therapy, and I'm about 90% certain our family group chat will never regain its pre-drama innocence. As for my husband, he's doing well. Truly well. He finally signed Kevin and himself up for a charity 5K and posted their registration to his fantasy football chat with this caption. Turns out this summer we run toward things instead of away. Update 3. Brace yourselves because real life continues to be complicated. I'd love to present a neat, tidy narrative where the family learned its lesson and everything is now a perfect fairy tale. But reality has other plans. After the slight easing from the birthday card gesture and Kevin's tentative re-entry into social life, you might assume we'd be on a gradual, peaceful ascent out of the crater. Not even close. The family drama universe apparently sensed we had achieved some stability and decided, what if another plot twist? Things began quietly. My father, yes, the same man who was entirely against forgiveness and entirely for stern pronouncements, called me in the middle of a workday. His voice so strained I honestly thought something had happened to my mother. Instead he asked, "Can you come over?" We had an unexpected visitor. Cryptic, of course. When I arrived, my mother was pacing their den. Across from her, in one of my dad's worn plaid recliners, sat Kelly's biological mother, Nina, blinking away the awkward silence and clutching a stack of papers. It turned out Nina had something beyond a birthday card in mind. She had documentation. In the weeks since everything unraveled, Kelly's new therapist arranged for a full psychological evaluation. Initially, this was just for self-harm concerns, but it delved deeper. The summary, at least as much as Nina explained, indicated that Kelly's pattern of lying, risky attempts for validation, and even the previous storytelling had an underlying cause. She had finally been formally diagnosed with traits of borderline personality disorder, along with severe social anxiety. I should mention we had suspected something neurodivergent for a while. There were hints years ago, but no one pushed for or obtained clear answers from Joe. Messy custody arrangements always complicated matters. Nina practically implored my parents to at least read the summary to understand that, yes, Kelly did something terrible, but also that she wasn't merely a malicious individual unleashed to poison the family. My parents are still traditional and cautious, but this entire situation even managed to breach their defenses. Dad read silently for a bit, then stiffly stated, "I don't know what you want from us." Nina asked them to attend a family circle at the clinic, not with Kelly present. No one is advocating for that. Just to hear from therapists about what the next steps entail. To be honest, a part of me wanted to shout that a diagnosis doesn't negate risk, but another part of me, a larger part, now that I've witnessed Kevin battling nightmares and Joe striving so hard to reconcile love and consequences, was simply exhausted and wished to trust the professionals. Eventually, my parents agreed, likely more for the "let's put this behind us" reasoning than out of sudden compassion. That session just occurred last week, and readers, it was surreal. 3 generations, 2 branches of our fractured family, sitting in a softly lit office as a young, calm therapist explained what BPD means for a teenage girl's sense of self, and what is achievable with years of therapeutic work. No, it wasn't the kind of everyone hugs now moment, but for the first time, I observed both my parents and Kelly's mother replace blame with a weary, skeptical curiosity. They even asked questions about boundaries, about safe contact. Safe meaning still no unsupervised visits, no contact with our immediate family, obviously. As for our small trio at home, it has become a sort of secure refuge. Kevin's sleep has become less troubled, especially after I established a nightmare phone. If a bad memory awakens him, he can come talk no matter how late. So far, it's only happened 3 times, But we are all less fearful of the darkness now. We even take rage walks, simply marching at full speed while venting about school, adults, social media disasters, whatever. But every healing narrative apparently requires one more unexpected challenge. Last weekend, after a strenuous afternoon at the park with Kevin and my sleeping baby in a stroller, I unexpectedly encountered, you won't believe it, Kelly. It wasn't a planned meeting, not some parent-arranged random intervention, just her nervously waiting for the city bus, earbuds in, staring at her phone. She saw me, froze, and seemed to shrink, as if she wished to vanish into her baggy hoodie. For a second, I wanted to keep walking. Then she removed one earbud and in the smallest voice said, "Hi, is Kevin okay?" I told her the truth, that he's improving, that we're all doing our best. She looked both relieved and as if she had been struck. I wasn't prepared to linger for some forgiveness summit, and frankly, I felt a little protective of Kevin's privacy, but then she quietly said, "I hope you win Mario Kart sometimes too. Even if you cheat." She attempted a smile, and for the first time there was zero drama, zero manipulation, just the energy of a lonely child. I didn't invite her for coffee or anything, still not even close to that. But when I got home I told Kevin. He merely shrugged an almost adult gesture and said, "She'll probably mess up for a while. I just want her far away, but I hope she can calm down someday." Joe called that night asking if I was alright. When I told him what happened, he actually sounded grateful. And this surprised me. He asked just once if we'd be willing to send a note to Kelly when she turned 16. Not forgiveness, not a ticket home, just a note from the family she wished she'd been a part of, reminding her that change isn't impossible, but trust takes time. We haven't decided. My sister is still raw, and our primary responsibility is keeping Kevin safe. But I will say this, we're not friends, not enemies. But perhaps, just perhaps, no one is permanently stuck in place. The old wounds remain, but there's less toxicity within them each passing day. Meanwhile, Kevin is back at our kitchen table arguing with my husband about sports statistics. My baby son is babbling at both of them. And for now that's enough. Perhaps this is what healing looks like. Not a group embrace, not a complete break, but a slow winding journey through the aftermath. Dignity preserved, boundaries firm. Seeing every member of our complicated family as someone still revising their story, even if they're not in our next chapter.